The Roman Empire has seen cruel tyrants, brutal conquerors, and even madmen, but one name stands above them all: Caligula, a young emperor who rose with promise but descended into darkness. He waged war on the sea. He named his horse a consul. He declared himself a god, and Rome watched in horror. This is not just a story of insanity, it's the story of unchecked power and what happens when the most powerful man in the world loses his grip on reality. This is the story of a boy born to greatness and raised in fear. Gaius Julius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus, entered the world on August 31st, AD 12. Born to Germanicus, Rome's most beloved general, and Agrippina the Elder, heiress of Augustus. He was steeped in imperial prestige and public adoration from the start, but early fame didn't make a happy childhood. Young Gaius quickly earned the nickname Caligula, Little Boots, after donning a miniature legionnaire's uniform and tiny military boots to accompany his father on campaigns. Roman soldiers cheered him. Parents passed him along for blessings. He was the living symbol of Julio-Claudian hope. Yet beneath the cheers, political currents stirred. Germanicus was the designated heir to Emperor Tiberius. Admired by soldiers, adored by citizens, and envied by the establishment, he was too popular. In AD 19, while in Syria, Germanicus died under suspicious circumstances, poisoned, some whispered, by those loyal to Tiberius. Rome mourned. Agrippina claimed foul play and demanded justice. In return, she was stripped of honors and exiled. One brother starved, another died in custody. Agrippina perished alone on an island. Surrounded by betrayal and blood, Caligula survived by learning to disappear. In AD 31, 19-year-old Caligula was summoned to live with Tiberius on the secluded island of Capri. At the Praetorian Guard's entrance to the island's villa, monarchy bled into debauchery. Tiberius ruled not from Rome's Senate, but from a twisted alcove of paranoia and lechery. The youth who once inspired cheers now witnessed conspiracies unfold. For 6 years, Caligula abode in silence. He watched aristocrats vanish in midnight trials. While Tiberius held court among poisoned wine and tortures, the emperor would prowl hallways naked, with naked youths, or watch from windows as men perished. Caligula learned how fear ruled. He also learned loyalty. Rumor says he pleaded with Tiberius to spare others. Others say he betrayed his cousins for survival. Either way, he knew power's true anatomy. When Tiberius died in early AD 37, under unclear circumstances, Caligula ascended to the throne at age 24. Rome erupted. The Praetorian Guard flanked him with cheers. Senators knelt, citizens wept. Finally, they thought, a new dawn. The son of Germanicus had returned. Caligula wasted no time. He burned documents of treason trials, pardoned political prisoners, paid the Praetorian Guard generous bonuses, revoked unpopular taxes, offered grain to the hungry. At public games, he appeared on chariots, tosses laurels, and restored exiles. Rome hailed him as savior. Artisans minted coins with his image. Poets wrote songs to his virtues. For 6 months, he was the Golden Emperor. Then came the illness. He collapsed at his palace during a ceremony. Rome gripped in concern. For weeks, fate was uncertain. The city held breath. When Caligula finally emerged from his illness, not with weak form but wild eyes, it was as if a switch had flipped. Historians debate meningitis, epilepsy, poison, madness. Whatever the illness, it changed him irrevocably. The benevolent prince vanished. In his place appeared an emperor theatrically cruel. He demanded to be worshipped alive, not just as ruler but as god. He built temples dedicated to himself. He renamed months after his family. Coins bore his name in divine form. Priests knelt in his presence. He endowed statues showing him battling gods. He rewarded cruelty. Executions became entertainment. Senators found themselves forced to race Caligula's chariot as amusement or risk exile. He staged mock gladiatorial games, forced patricians to fish as punishment, secured that anyone who displeased him, wealthy or low-born, disappeared by morning. He drained Rome's treasury. Golden palaces floated on lakes. Indoors, gems and pearls weighed worn robes. State funds subsidized lavish feasts for him and his court. For entertainment, he staged mock sea battles in amphitheaters. To replenish coffers, he auctioned state equipment, gladiators, even Senate seats. Senators purchased favors and titles. They learned to pay millions for whispers of power. Should they fail, exile or execution awaited. His cruelty extended beyond politics. He surprised guests at dinner, taunted visitors with rumors, and kept noble families under surveillance. In private rooms, he demanded submission, joked about incest with his sisters, especially Drusilla, believing her divine after her death. He rechristened temples of other gods in her honor. Behind every rumor lay violence. Guards arrested men mid-meeting, prisoners appeared publicly as trophies, slaves turned informants, delivering whispered fears to his throne. Caligula advocated pervasive faith: worship him, fear him, or die. In battle and in symbol, he flaunted power. Caligula ordered his army in AD 39 to collect seashells on Britain's shores, declaring a victory over Neptune. His troops stood confused, arms laden with shells, while he returned triumphant. In Rome, he explained that Rome had conquered the sea itself. He made his horse Incitatus a priest. He lavished the stallion with ivory, purple blankets, white marble troughs, the ultimate insult to Rome's hierarchy. Whether a joke or madness, it humiliated elites and asserted his dominance. None truly rivaled him. Yet beneath the terror, Caligula was calculating. He kept chatter minimal but spectacle maximal. He manipulated society's spectacle-starved desire with cruelty and pageantry. Rome fell silent in awe of theater and terror. By the end of AD 37, Rome no longer had an emperor. It had a spectacle, and Caligula, once prince, believed he was God. After Tiberius's death in 37 AD, Caligula, just 24 years old, ascended the throne with immense public support. He was hailed not only as the biological successor of Germanicus, the beloved general, but also as a fresh, youthful alternative to Tiberius's reclusive tyranny. The beginning of his reign was shockingly promising. He granted bonuses to the Praetorian Guard, recalled exiles, and even organized games in honor of his deceased mother and brothers. Rome rejoiced, believing they had found a benevolent princeps. However, everything shifted within months. In late 37 AD, Caligula fell gravely ill. The illness remains mysterious. Some believe it was poisoning, others epilepsy, or even a nervous breakdown. Regardless, when he recovered, he was no longer the same man. From that point, his behavior became increasingly erratic and cruel. He executed or exiled political rivals, even those who had once supported him. He forced senators to grovel before him, mocking the Senate's authority. Rome had exchanged one form of tyranny for another, more flamboyant, unpredictable, and deeply personal. But why did he change? Some historians argue the illness affected his brain. Others suggest the sheer trauma of Roman politics, having watched his family murdered under Tiberius, finally broke him. Whatever the cause, Caligula's descent was swift, and Rome would pay the price. Caligula didn't just abuse power, he mocked the very idea of power. He demanded divine honors while alive, building temples to himself and insisting on being worshipped as a living god. He appeared in public dressed as Mercury, Apollo, and even Venus. He replaced the heads of statues of gods with his own likeness. One of his most infamous acts? Appointing his horse, Incitatus, as a priest, and threatening to make him a consul. While often cited as a sign of madness, some scholars suggest it was a deliberate insult to the Senate. If they were so useless, why not replace them with a horse? Caligula also enjoyed tormenting Rome's elite. He invited senators to banquets only to humiliate them or test their loyalty. His cruelty knew no limit. He supposedly joked about decapitating guests mid-dinner. He emptied the imperial treasury with lavish spending, colossal games, palaces, and absurd luxuries, then taxed the public heavily to refill it. Laws changed on whims, property was confiscated at will, and the fear of execution hung over everyone. To the public, he was a spectacle. To the Senate, a nightmare. And to historians, a puzzle. Madman or political provocateur? Caligula's reign of terror grew worse in his later years. He executed his own relatives, including his cousin Ptolemy of Mauritania, for imagined slights. His own sisters were forced into prostitution and exiled. Treason trials became common, and rumors spread that no one, noble or commoner, was safe from imperial wrath. He left Rome in shambles, embarking on strange campaigns abroad. One infamous incident saw him march to the shores of Gaul, only to order his soldiers to collect seashells, spoils from his war with Neptune. These acts weren't just bizarre, they undermined Rome's credibility. Caligula's cruelty extended to all corners of the empire. Governors feared his orders. Senators feared speaking. Even his bodyguards feared proximity. Behind the palace walls, stories tell of orgies, murders, and humiliations. It's hard to separate myth from fact, but one truth remains. Rome was living in fear. And fear is what ultimately ended him. On January 24th, 41 AD, the unthinkable happened. Caligula was assassinated. A conspiracy formed within the Praetorian Guard, spearheaded by Cassius Chaerea, a man Caligula mocked for his voice and appearance. The emperor was attacked in a passage beneath the Palatine Hill and stabbed over 30 times. His wife and child were murdered as well. Rome panicked. Had they just killed a god? Was this the end of the Principate? The Senate saw an opportunity to restore the Republic, but the army had other plans. Caligula's uncle, Claudius, was found hiding and declared emperor. The empire lived on, even if its madness had briefly spiraled out of control. Caligula's 4-year reign left scars on Roman memory. Historians like Suetonius and Dio Cassius depict him as a monster, though their accounts are colored by political agendas. Still, the image endures, Caligula as the embodiment of unchecked power. Whether mad, traumatized, or both, his name became a byword for tyranny. And centuries later, we still ask, was Caligula a madman, or a mirror showing Rome its own insanity?